Okay, welcome back. This is a big story we're going to cover this hour. Pay close attention. You'll hear things that you haven't heard elsewhere, with one or two exceptions. The live avian flu virus placed in Baxter vaccine materials and sent to 18 countries is the topic of this hour. And in case you missed the story, let me give you just a little bit of background on it. The company that released contaminated flu virus material from a plant in Austria confirmed recently that the experimental product contained live H5N1 avian flu viruses. And an official of the World Health Organization's European operations said the body is closely monitoring the investigation into the events that took place at Baxter International's, remember that name, research facility in Austria. The contamination incident, which is being investigated by 4 European countries at least, came to light when the subcontractor in the Czech Republic inoculated ferrets with the Baxter product, and the ferrets died. Ferrets shouldn't die from exposure to human H3N2 flu viruses. It's a big story, and to kind of fill in the blanks and bring us up to speed on this is Dr. Bill Deagle, MD. Dr. Deagle, of course, has his own talk program on the talk radio giant GCN, which is giant is certainly the amount of truth and reality it brings to the American people. Bill, welcome back to the program.
I appreciate it, Jeff, and I hope we can bring some very important news to the people in action, because the regular snooze media, I call it, is not touching this with a 10-foot pole. We got a new document sent by one of the followers of Dr. Carley after her presentations on multiple shows. Alexander S. Jones, I hope we have him on the line, or soon going to have him on the line. He is a former U.S. National Institute of Health a technician employee, and he gave some amazing revelations on the show in the third hour today on the NutriMedical Report, which is 2 to 5 Central Time, Monday to Friday, and encores on Sunday evening. Alexander Jones' questions are stark, and he also got documents that were translated from the Czech Republic into English professionally.
Right. I have those all up at the top featured story at Rense.com. You'll find 4 stories under the title, the H5N1, quote, accident, end quote. The translated documents that Bill is talking about are up there, as are some other materials, including one from True Ought, which you'll find very interesting, called Connecting the H5N1 Dot, so be sure and take a look at that. All right, Bill, go ahead, please.
This is not an accident. Just to summarize for those who aren't scientists, what they were seeing happening over the years is the H5N1 is so lethal, in order for it to recombine, it had to have 2 infections in one host, whether it's a bird, a person, a pig, and then to swap sections of DNA to transfer the docking genes. And that basically, they have done this. They've done what you actually do to create a bioweapon by mixing H5N1, which is highly pathogenic, and with the H3N2, and then sending it to 18 different labs in 3 countries.
Without getting too far down the road on this, Baxter International was responsible for doing this. And the obvious question is, why would they possibly mix H5N1 with H3N2 and send it to 18 different countries? Accidents like that don't happen.
No. In fact, all of the procedures at multiple steps would have prevented this. And then at the site in the Czech Republic, they just followed a lab procedure to pass it through by injecting it into ferrets to make certain that it was safe to continue experiments on animals or humans. Plus, the same company, Baxter, was ready to release their own version of the avian flu vaccine, which multiple companies are competing for.
Right.
And Baxter, of course, is in the 10th district, which is the same district for Mr. Obama. Isn't that interesting?
It is. All right, Baxter International, we talked about the Austria branch of it. So it's headquartered, what city is it domain in?
One of the districts of Chicago.
Okay, so it's in the greater Chicago urban area. All right. What are the ties, do we know, between Baxter International and the CIA or the Feds in any other respect? Do we have any direct ties?
Lots of interesting connections. In fact, this is where the points that Dr. Ott sent me earlier this evening,
which are up in the featured
which are
story
up on
box.
that, and they're quite dramatic. In fact, he has he's got this very dry sense of humor. Oh, kiddies, let's play my favorite game, connecting the dots. And if you go down through this, you can see the connections between PricewaterhouseCoopers in conjunction with Chicago client Baxter International, and of course the tie-in directly to Dr. Tautenberger at Fort Detrick, who intentionally blended human-specific H3N2 and sent to 18 different labs. So there's direct connections here, and you can see the connection between PricewaterhouseCoopers and this. And, of course, just last year we also had a different company, Sanofi Pasteur, and their branch plant in China that made 380-plus million doses of this binary RNA first-phase vaccine.
Yeah, when you say binary, let's not leave anybody behind. Explain binary.
Binary means they vaccinated them with the first phase of this vaccine, our troops, going back and forth to the Gulf and Afghanistan. And they also announced they were going to vaccinate all the county sheriffs all across the country with the state health departments, and also vaccinate their entire families. They haven't yet started, but the timeline is that the 90-day stale date is within 90 days of now. So these 380 million doses, quote, go stale date within 3 months.
Pretty amazing. Okay, do read the Connect the Dots by Dr. Ott. I think you'll be slack-jawed and amazed, to put it mildly.
It is shocking in the extreme. Yeah. And the fact that the documents are right here. He has the links. He's done his homework.
Right.
You can see it. I mean, it's not conjecture. As I say, you need to read. Please don't believe. Be a skeptic. Be a skeptic, but when you find out the facts, don't pretend that it didn't happen.
Be an honest skeptic.
Be an honest skeptic, you know?
All right, so read the stories there. Now, let's go back to this Baxter, this mistake. 18 different countries got this tainted H3N2 so-called vaccine. Live H5N1 was put into it. The idea being, I guess, to use all the people and animals that this was injected into to set the stage, as you've already pointed out, for two infections to be concurrent and to allow the recombination to actually expedite a much faster track. The docking mechanisms have already been pretty well documented. In fact, the three primary docking sites in mammalian human cells have already become very familiar and acceptable to H5N1. They're real happy to pull up and park there. It's gaining entry to the cell that is the one last little impediment, apparently, to turning this thing loose on the world stage.
Yeah, it's only two amino acids changed which they can swap, but they have to have an infection of both in the same host to do it. And it's like playing the game Keno. And I don't gamble, but if you play Keno, once the balls fall, you just have to play the game enough times and you're going to get certain number combinations.
Right.
And so you just have to have a statistic. If you have enough hosts with both infections, eventually you're going to get that super infection, the virus X, the Zycronian 12 plague that will sweep across the world, killing hundreds of millions, if not billions.
How many doses were sent to the 18 countries? Do you know? I'm trying to find that number. Do we know exactly?
We don't know yet. We know it was 18 European labs and I think 3 countries at least. And what happens is that we know that other labs, in fact, I have classified documents I haven't released yet, from November 2007. The whistleblower actually got cold feet at the last minute, November 2007. And this is at a Pfizer pharmaceutical lab in a research park in New Jersey. We know that Sanofi Pasteur has their main plant in France and their branch plant in outside Beijing was making these hundreds of millions of doses. So there's multiple companies. We do not know how many are doing similar or parallel dangerous experiments, dangerous transfers through FedEx and other couriers, in unsafe lab practices, or purposely trying to co-infect host animals with both at the same time, supposedly to create a vaccine. So all of it incredibly dangerous.
The issue you mentioned a moment ago, FedEx or UPS,